Souls-likes. If there was ever a genre that consumed my gaming life, it would have to be Souls-likes. In whatever flavor it may be, 2D, 3D, side-scrollers or otherwise, indie games, AA studios, AAA studios, or the holy grail of all Souls-like games, an actual FromSoft title. Souls-likes are my genre of comfort in a topsy-turvy gaming world, and I'm sure anyone who has taken a look at my channel for any amount of time more than a few seconds knows that. I love games of all kinds, hence my unfocused scattershot style of variety of games that I cover. But a Souls-like will always be home to me, and honestly these days it doesn't even have to be a great Souls-like for me to enjoy it. If it's a Souls-like game, hell, even if it just masquerades as one, good, bad, ugly, I'll play it and I'll probably enjoy it. It's an unfortunate truth that if I find a mediocre Souls-like game, I will spend more time on that than other more deserving games. I'm weak, I admit it. Do not be like me, children, for I am flawed and ill-made. It's fortunate then that the newest Souls-like game that I took a dive into, Tales of Iron, is unexpectedly excellent. Though if I'm honest, Souls-like really only applies to the game and its core combat mechanics and some of the aesthetics which were unexpectedly dark for a rat game. Oh, that's right. Tales of Iron is about rats, and frogs, and bugs, all locked into fierce tribal combat one against the other, in a medieval setting about castles, clans, and bloody warfare. Couched within an otherwise fanciful and light-hearted aesthetic, Tales of Iron has a spine of steel and blood on its whiskers. Pressed to sum up my impression of Tales of Iron in a single word, it would be surprise. I walked into the game fully blind, having not even watched a trailer. I saw the game on sale, saw a couple of screenshots, thought the art looked good, and scooped it up. I was expecting something closer to Hollow Knight, with cute little sprites of rats and other small creatures set against a lushly drawn 2D backdrop. While these elements are certainly part of the aesthetic, they're counterbalanced by fierce battles and violent, grim confrontations between the warring nations of the Rat Kingdom and the barbaric Frog Tribe. Both the visuals and gameplay itself dive into a much harsher tone that is a fantastic contrast with the cute critter imagery you would expect, with blood, guts, and dismemberment and grisly finishers to cap off each surprisingly hard-fought battle. Combat is the majority of the game aside from some basic exploration and minor platforming, and though fairly simple and straightforward, I found myself thoroughly engaged with the battles. Some players may be turned off by the simplicity of the battles and crave something a little bit deeper than the action on offer, but for me the combat was suitably intense, taking on multiple foes or particularly large and heavy foes, giving me a satisfying rush whenever I came out victorious over my frog or bug enemies. All this was an unexpected treat. I anticipated neither the challenge of the engagements nor the brutality of the story when I first booted the game up, and the unexpected surprise of these elements undoubtedly added to my enjoyment of the roughly 8-hour journey. Oddbug Studio is a small indie team of 9 developers. Oddbug, please don't hang me up to dry if I got this one wrong. I counted up 9 team members on your website, but I also don't math real good. Put together the surprisingly high quality and well-crafted experience on offer in Tales of Iron. And I think it's especially worth praise that such a small studio managed to craft such an enjoyable and well-fleshed out world for only their second game ever. The loving care and craftsmanship that went into Tales of Iron is undeniable, from the art style and quality of the tight refinement of gameplay to the enjoyable OST and clever writing. Everything in Tales of Iron feels creative, unique, and well-made, resembling the sort of work one would expect from a more extensive and experienced team. And while it isn't a sprawling 30-plus hour epic, Tales of Iron didn't need to be. Every moment of its short and focused runtime felt perfectly paced and planned out to keep things engaging, relevant, and fresh. This is done through a well-balanced progression of upgrades in the form of newly acquired gear, a tough but fair difficulty escalation, and a story that is liked and digestible yet grim and engaging. While gameplay is relatively simple in terms of mechanics, the overall loop of exploration, quests, gear acquisition, upgrades, and taking on various tasks to defend or restore your kingdom is well paced. Some side quests involve gathering needed materials and drops, but most fall under extermination quests, venturing into enemy territory to slay a particular monstrous bug or a key leader of the frog clan threatening incursion into rat lands. Rewards for these quests come in the form of a new, better gear to help you in battle, or gold used to repair and restore your ravaged kingdom still recovering after a particularly destructive Frog Clan invasion at the beginning of the game. It's during this invasion at the very start of the game that we are introduced to Reggie, the youngest prince in the Rat Kingdom, and yes, all this sounds ridiculous to say and difficult to take seriously, and of course it is. It's a game about a medieval kingdom of rats. Despite this, the game does a fine job of nailing a heavy and grim tone, as many of Reggie's people are either slaughtered or kidnapped early in the game, including his own father and brothers, slaughtered and kidnapped respectively. Much of the focus of the game thereafter centers around freeing Reggie's brothers, rebuilding his kingdom, and keeping the Frog Clan's continued invasion at bay. This expands beyond the simple defense of his homeland into further exploration of the land surrounding the Rat Kingdom, diving into the underground Mole City and exploring their strangely advanced technology, or exploring the Rat Kingdom's crypts, which contain the undead, restless remnants of Reggie's forefathers. These mysteries and the dropped hints that Reggie's father may not have been entirely who and what he seemed to be are story beats that come up peripherally around the main story and are hinted at more than actually explored. And I very much hope that Tales of Iron gets a sequel that explores these areas thoroughly, because they were by far the most interesting parts of the game. Still, the bulk of the story we get, while simple and straightforward, isn't bad. Amidst the grim overtones, there's some charm to Reggie coming into his own as a young warrior prince, growing into his place as a king caring for his people. The telling of the story itself is creatively executed as well, as all direct dialogue between characters are presented through picture stories and thought bubbles. These novel bits of storytelling are fleshed out by narration performed by Doug Cockle. That's right, this often grim and bloody medieval fantasy is voiced by none other than Geralt of Rivia himself.
The turtle bid the pair farewell. Reggie asked his friend to stay by the river. This was not his fight. But Jay never abandoned a comrade in need. They were as brothers now, he said.
Cockle puts in a great performance that brings the story along quite nicely, including a number of tongue-in-cheek references to his most well-known role. If I had one major complaint about Tales of Iron, it's that I wanted more. Though I don't mind a short game, and having the game be too much longer would have just dragged it out, in many ways I felt like the middle and end of the game could have been beefed up to be so much more, both in terms of gameplay and narrative. I was most heavily engaged with the game during its early chapters, when Reggie is recovering from the grievous blow dealt him and his people by the Frog Clan, and in the tantalizing promise of the peripheral stories in the zombie-infested crypt and the mole underground civilization. I would have loved for some expanded combat that kept the same excellent core mechanics but gave us more attack options in varied situations. I also would have enjoyed even more of the well-done bosses, a wider range of animals and enemy types, and further exploration abroad outside of the Rat Kingdom. I can picture Reggie on a more expansive quest, perhaps to gather allies from neighboring kingdoms and countries, amassing a unified army from various animal kingdoms to face a much larger Frog Clan. I loved almost everything about Tales of Iron, I just wish there had been a bit more meat on the bone. When my biggest overall complaint about a game is that I just want more content, more variety, more ways to play, I consider that game to be a great success. Oddbug has definitely knocked Tales of Iron out of the park, and I can only hope that we get a sequel that expands even further into the great foundation this game has laid. By the end credits, it's obvious that Reggie has gained the will of a king. Now, I want to see what he does with it. Thanks for checking out my video. I know this one was a little bit on the short side, but I think it fits for this game. Tales of Iron was a simple, straightforward, well-crafted game, and those were part of its strong points. Hopefully making a similarly pointed and focused review will be a strong point for this video as well. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like and check out my review of another great indie title, the artistic and visually striking Trek to Yomi. Or you can check out my analysis of Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart and see how an old favorite franchise of mine is starting to show its age. Leave a comment and let me know if you enjoyed Tales of Iron and if you're looking forward to more entries from Oddbug's talented studio. Subscribe for more game reviews and essays, as well as live streams, shorts, and other gaming content. Until next time, stay salty, nerds.
Blasters make short work of most enemies. The king could get used to this.